I have been cleaning the Orith 3 survey station for 11 years. Night shift, 7 hours for corridors, 2 labs, and the central atrium where the sphere sits inside its glass column and has never, in all the time I have worked here, done a single thing. That is not unusual. Half the artifacts cataloged in the atrium are inert. The researchers come through on rotation, 2 weeks on, for weeks off, and they test and scan and argue, and then they go home and file reports that say the same word over and over. Unresponsive. The sphere is the most unresponsive of all. 17 years of documented contact attempts. 17 years of gloved hands pressed to the housing glass, calibrated tonal frequencies, electromagnetic probes, a linguist who spent 6 months trying every known precursor dialect. Nothing. I am not a researcher. My name is Rail Dunn. I am 58 years old. I push a cart with a squeaky left wheel, and I mop things and I change air filters, and I have a habit I picked up sometime in my second year here without knowing I was picking it up. When I pass the spheres column on my night round, I tap the base twice with 2 knuckles. The same knock I give any equipment cabinet that seems like it might be stuck, and I say, quietly, still in there. I do not know when I started. I do not remember deciding to. It is the kind of thing your hands learn to do in the dark when you have walked the same route long enough that your body stops waiting for your mind. 11 years of twice a night. I have tapped that column base something like 8,000 times. Tonight, I tapped it on my first round, same as always. Still in there. And I kept walking because I had the east corridor filters to change and the second lab's drainage to clear, and none of that waits. I was at the far end of the east corridor when the lights went out. Not a flicker, not a surge. The whole station went to emergency amber in one flat blink, and in the amber dark at the far end of the corridor behind me, through the open atrium arch, something was glowing the color of a candle seen through fog. Pale, warm, rising. I stood there for a moment. Then I walked back. The sphere had lifted inside the column. It had never lifted. In 17 years of logged attempts, it had never moved, never lit, never produced any measurable output above baseline noise. It was floating now at the center of the housing, and the glow was coming through the glass in even, slow pulses, and the glass itself was warm when I put my hand to it. Not hot. Warm the way a stone is warm after a long afternoon. I did not call anyone. I know I should have. The protocol for artifact activation events is explicit. Alert the duty researcher. Do not touch the housing. Do not alter the ambient environment. I know the protocol. I helped mop up after the last activation event 2 stations over, which turned out to be a sensor malfunction and a great deal of embarrassed paperwork. But the protocol assumes you will feel urgency. I did not feel urgency. I felt the way you feel when something you've been quietly waiting for without knowing you were waiting finally arrives. A door that opens instead of needing to be forced. The sphere rose to the top of the column, and then the glass was gone. I do not mean it broke. I do not mean it fell. It was there, and then it was not, the way a word leaves your mind mid-sentence, and the sphere was simply in the air between the column and my chest, and it moved to my hand the way a dog moves to the hand it knows. It settled in my palm. It weighed almost nothing. The glow was coming from inside it now, and it was warm all the way through, and the warmth went up my arm and settled behind my sternum like a second heartbeat. Then the voice came, not through the air, not through the station's speaker system, which was still cycling on emergency amber, through the bone, through the chest cavity itself, a pressure behind the sternum that assembled itself into something like words without bothering to become sound first. Home at last, first shaper. I held it for a long time without moving. My grandfather's name was Jovel Dunn. He worked salvage on the Orith corridor 60 years ago, before the survey stations were built, when the relay buoys were still the only structure in this part of the reach. He was not a scientist. He was, if anything, less credentialed than I am. He had calloused hands and a preference for working in silence. And he could diagnose a mechanical failure by feel in a way that made the junior techs uneasy. They thought it was a trick. It was not a trick. It was patience. He found the sphere in the debris field off what is now the Orith 3 approach corridor, in a crate of salvage that had been sitting in a relay depot for 6 years waiting for someone to get around to cataloging it. He did not know what it was. He knew it was broken. He could feel that it was broken the same way he could feel a stripped gear or a cracked housing. Not by seeing it, but by holding it and listening, which is the kind of listening that happens in the hands. He spent 3 months with it. This is in his personal logs, which I read once and then set aside because they seemed private even after he was gone. He says he worked on it the way you work on something that doesn't want to be rushed. He says he never knew if he fixed it or just kept it company until it was ready to fix itself. He says when he handed it over to the first survey team on Orith 3, it was whole. He does not explain what whole means. He did not need to. The survey team logged it as an unactivated artifact of unknown precursor origin and put it in the atrium column and began 17 years of documented failure. I think I understand now why it did not respond to any of them. It was not waiting for the right credentials. It was not waiting for the right frequency or the right dialect or the right electromagnetic approach. It was waiting for the hands that felt like the hands that had held it when it was broken and had not given up. Not the hands themselves. Those are gone, 60 years gone. The memory of them. The shape of the patience. I have my grandfather's hands. People have said so my whole life. I never thought it meant anything beyond the shape of the knuckles, the way the fingers move. I think it meant this. The sphere pulsed once, slowly, and the warmth behind my sternum settled into something quieter. Not a heartbeat anymore. More like a kept promise. The station's lights came back on, full white, not amber, and the sphere's glow shifted with them, cool and steady, the way a lamp settles once the room is right. I stood in the atrium of the Orith 3 survey station, a janitor with a squeaky-wheeled cart and 11 years of night rounds, holding something that had been waiting in the dark for 60 years for the right pair of hands to come back around. I set it back in the column, not because I was afraid of it, because it belongs there, and because it will still be there in the morning when the duty researcher arrives and the alerts go off and the station starts generating 17 years of new paperwork. They will have questions I cannot fully answer. That is fine. I can tell them what I know. It was waiting. It knew what it was looking for. It found it. What I will not be able to explain, what I'm not sure I want to explain because some things sit better in the chest than on paper, is the way it felt when it called me that. Not my name. Not a title I have earned by any measure the survey board would recognize. Something older. Something that had been assigned before I was born by hands that understood things by touching them and never wrote the understanding down. First shaper. I finished my round. I changed the east corridor filters. I cleared the second lab's drainage. I pushed my cart back to the maintenance bay, and I sat for a while in the quiet of the early morning before the day's shift arrived, before the alarms and the calls and the careful official language began. My grandfather kept something alive that did not want to be given up on. I just kept coming back. Between the two of us, it turned out that was enough.